Hello, everyone. I am Brian from Eagle 2.0 Consulting. What I do is I'm a contributor with Small Business Edge, which is launching a new platform for aspiring or existing small business owners and entrepreneurs to have a GPS track to kind of not get stuck in their entrepreneurial goals. And the Eagle Consulting is more about marketing your product and services to veterans and having a more social impact type of message to people. And a lot of you might not know, but this month is Military Appreciation Month. And it's a rather new thing, but if you're marketing to veterans, it's also an opportune month to kind of get your message out in a way that veterans know what's going on. Because I know it's also Mental Awareness Month, so it's really would be a great way to package it. But without further ado, I am interviewing / having a conversation with Kedma, the author of Target Funding, the small business superhero, and basically the Oprah Winfrey of small business. If you don't know Kedma, you should automatically know her now. Okay. So Kedma, take it away and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
First of all, I want to thank you for your service, because I think that it's really important that we recognize every day that there are people who are protecting us, right? And they're really taking a lot of what we often take for granted as civilians, and they are monitoring us, whether it's in cybersecurity warfare or whether it's physical security. So I appreciate that you yourself was involved in the military. And I really salute and appreciate anyone who's been a part of it. So yes, my name is Kedma O, and I'm dubbed as the small business superhero. And I've been really advocating around small business support for close to 20 years. And also I have a very special place in my heart for veterans, because I have been a lead consultant for the Veteran Administration for about 10 years. So I actually, we could talk more about that, but I work a lot on the back end as a consultant representing veterans who are looking at entrepreneurship, and specifically focused on veterans who may have one or more disabilities. So excited to talk a little bit about the book and sort of how do we focus on veterans when it comes to funding. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So I guess the first question is, there's a lot of focus on transitioning veterans, and I know for me, there is just way too many resources to try to navigate and get to the right one, which is, a lot of the motivation for, working with veterans, and just for my own, my own issues with trying to figure out what that path is. So what would you suggest, if you're trying to get into the world of small business? What is something that you'd want them, what is something they can do first to kind of get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said navigation. So the first thing most humans do in this world is they go to our friendly website called Google, and they key in small business or grants or funding, and they get about 161 million hits, which is fantastic, but the average person will go through probably no more than 20 pages and try to pull their hair out if they have any hair. You nailed it, where the focus is really navigation, targeting the information, targeting the funds. I work a lot in innovation. When we think about patents, when we think about the idea of how do we bring a new product to the market, anybody in the IP space would tell you that if you're doing a research around a patent, you want to target the keywords. It's really no different when we think about funding. Now, you mentioned small business. I'm going to throw a question out to you. Have you heard of the term target marketing? And if you have, what does that mean for you? What does target marketing mean?
Target marketing. I mean, my first impression, just not thinking, target marketing is like, who am I speaking to when I present myself to an audience? So for me, obviously, it's either the transitioning veteran or the veteran that wants, that mindset, they want to be an entrepreneur, or like a company that is having trouble messaging to reach a certain audience.
Right. So in your case, when you describe target marketing, you're very specific. You have an ideal customer, right? Whether it's obviously very niched, right, in terms of military or veteran or someone supporting a veteran or someone in the military. It could be based on age, right, depending on what you're promoting or supporting or the product. With target funding, most people see funding like a pizza pie, where the whole pie in their mind says, well, I have to have the whole pie go to a bank, or I have to have the whole pie go to venture capital. And I imagine funding like 12 slices to a pizza pie. One slice may be debt, like a loan. Another slice may be angel investment, but you have 10 other slices. And that could be everything from grants to forgivable loans to accelerators. But unless you have a navigator, unless you have a GPS system, you're going to get on the highway and get lost. And the reason I know that is because if you already figured it out, you're probably not listening to this podcast or videocast. Right. So I think it's just getting the right navigator to support you.
Right. And as the Veteran Business Navigator, I would absolutely agree. And
exactly.
That, unless you've experienced, because there's a lot of pressure for veterans when they're transitioning to adapt to what and going through the motions, and you're just following kind of blindly. But that if you have the mindset where you want to, and in the military, you have this structured mindset. So it's really helpful, like you said, to know what the slices of the pie are and how to focus, because I think that's the strength of military entrepreneurs is they can say, okay, as long as you give me a path, I can follow that. I've done that already, and it leads you in the right way. And then, so that's what I think, when you have somebody like you that knows the landscape, the veteran landscape, the funding, also very helpful to have you in the circle. If you don't have Kedma in your business circle, I would highly encourage you to check out her book and where she's going to be speaking soon, because I know you're traveling upcoming. If you want to share where you're going.
Well, let me speak to a comment you brought up, because you yourself, the reason you designed the Veteran Business Navigator concept is, I would presume, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming at some point you were trying to navigate your own resources and probably ran into some challenges, right? Right. And so sometimes people will say to me, well, why do we need a navigator? Because, the resources are out there. It's like walking into a retail store where the options are so much, it's so overwhelming. And you're like, in my case, I just want a size 4 dress. I don't want to have to go through everything. And I want someone to come in and say, oh, hello, Kedma. Is that what you're looking for? Oh, this is your size. Let me bring you to the back of the store and show you exactly where you need to go, instead of having to navigate through our entire store to try to figure it out and waste your time. So your point of this idea of navigation is really because you've been there, and you're making it easier to give someone the roadmap to say, you're transitioning out. Here is where you want to go, and here's how to customize it. Am I correct?
You are correct. And if you guys don't know, Kedma is a fantastic coach and mentor. And really, if you don't know the value of coaching and mentorship, I hope you're listening to this and really seeing how it can, kind of illuminate things. And you can also see how sometimes a coach can even say what you do better than you do. It is an amazing talent.
Well, I want to say to your comment, if you want to follow success, success leaves clues. So sports teams, right? And everybody on sports, they have coaches, right? Authors, they have coaches. Speakers, national speakers, they have coaches. But the key is finding the right coach, right? It's being hyper-focused and not saying, oh, you're a coach? Yeah, I'm going to bring you on, right? Like, what? What does that mean? Right. So it's just being hyper-focused, right? Why would I have someone coach me on military and veterans and they have no experience in that? That doesn't make sense, right? So I think it's on top of coaching is really being mindful on who is coaching you, because I don't know if you've had this happen for you, but it's happened for me, where I've had a bad coach that I've paid for,
right,
who has given me bad advice. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but once that's happened to you one time, you're like, oh no, coaches are not all the same.
exactly. And just to briefly speak to that, I think that, although that's a horrible thing and it's happened to me and probably a lot of people that have hired coaches, it is a learning lesson moving forward. When you talk to people and you notice these signs of somebody you don't click with, you realize that, okay, that's not the personality for me. That doesn't work. And it's really not as much, somebody could have a ton of knowledge, but they don't present it to you in a way that's helpful for you. And they don't make the time that you need to really feel like this person cares about your success.
Agreed. Well, I'm excited. So I'm happy to share a little bit about target funding for people who are thinking about jumping on board in the entrepreneurship world. And to your point, why I love working with veterans so much is they have ingrained in themselves through their training systems, operation, execution. Do you know how many people don't know how to execute? Okay. They haven't been trained how to execute. There is, and also this zero focus where they understand. They also have very strong understanding on teamwork, right? They have great understanding on problem solving, how to take a situation where it perhaps looks like a chaos and create harmony through that. I love working with veterans. What I want to make sure we're clear on, hyper-focused, is that there is veteran funding set aside. That's what target funding is, right? So because you have served, there's actually funding set aside, but it depends what you're looking for. One of my favorite organizations I will share is actually in my book, called Street Chair. And the gentleman who started it also came from the military. And it's an excellent organization where they provide both grants for veterans. They also have an equity kind of setup, and then they also have lending. And it's really designed to market to the veteran who's looking at funding. And that's just one source. There's many, many sources. But I do want to make sure we're clear that when we think about funding, there's funding that's also niched to the fact that you have served or you are working with a veteran.
Right. And I've also, is there a way to, if you're coming out and you're looking to start that funding journey because I've heard, all these venture capitalists, they might want to invest in veterans, but like, what is the avenue? What's their it's probably buying your book, but what is that one step that they can take if they have the idea and are really passionate about small business entrepreneurship? Because veterans get a lot of invites to start a franchise, to do these things, invest with somebody they don't know. What's like a safe way for them to take that step to see if they can get funding and what they need so they can reach out to somebody and take that initial step?
And you bring up such a good point, because I always say that if we were on a Monopoly set, I'm kind of in like the free parking area where I really have no vested interest on, you could take any property you want, but you have to go around the board and still stop at free parking. And I say that because I love franchise industry. I actually came from the franchise industry in terms of helping grow, but they have a place, right? So a franchisor who's trying to entice you, their interest is just franchising. A venture capitalist or angel investor, which a lot of companies try to gear, they're just looking at whether or not your company has a good ROI for them to even invest their money. And they're also looking at equity, right? A licensor is potentially looking at whether your product fits into their market so that there's a license. Here's my point. Every one of them is right, and every one of them is geared on what's important for them. Right. A navigator of funding is not necessarily just focused on franchising or licensing or loans. They're looking at what's best for you. So the number one thing for you to think about, what is it you're trying to do? Are you trying to start a company? Are you trying to create a product? Are you trying to buy a company? So what is it you're trying to do? What do you need the money for? Okay. And I always say in order of priority, I give this wonderful analogy because I've worked with over 10,000, literally 10,000 individual companies. And the analogy is I get people every single week who come to my office and they go, so what would you like to do? Well, I'd like to buy a soccer stadium. Oh, really? Okay. What would you like? Well, first I'd like to have the soccer stadium. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, I'd like to have all the uniforms. I'd like to make sure all the people in the stadium get everything they want. We want to have the food cart set up. And I just listen to everything they want. And then I say, so it sounds like you want to play soccer? They go, yeah. Yeah, all I care about is that you're like wearing decent clothes and maybe a pair of shoes. Because until we get you in the game, this is just a conversation. So I tell our clients, order of priority of what you absolutely need to get in the game. Right. Because until you're in the game, you're just chatting. So I would say, what is it you need? What do you need it for? And then what is the lowest hanging fruit? I don't get excited about giving debt to you. So if I was counseling with you, Brian, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm so excited. I have this loan. I can't wait to give you this loan. It's so exciting. Here's what the interest. No, I get excited if I could say, hey, Brian, did you know that there was a foundation grant available that you can access for $10,000? And you say, but I need 50. I go, oh, wait a minute. That 10,000 I just sliced away. Now you only need 40,000, right? Yeah. So those are the three things I look for. What are you doing? What do you need it for? And then what are you open to in terms of the type of funding?
I think, yeah, when you open up the doors to see the low-hanging fruit, like you said, even getting that piece, it starts momentum.
Amen.
And that's so important to me as someone who needs to feel like, you know, you're on a path and moving forward and like, oh, okay, so this is a possibility. You have to mentally think that. And I think a lot of people get bogged down. An idea means nothing, like you said, without execution. I have a million ideas and I tell people about it all the time. You know, you can go on a site and just tell them your idea and they'll call and say, well, we think this is fantastic. So, but it really is, you know, you have to really fall in love with the process and being able to take that initial step, and knowing the initial step and the low hanging fruit is a big thing.
I do want to call something out because I'm a straight shooter, right? So I'll just tell it like it is. When we think about funding, we've got time, quality, and resource. So sometimes people say, well, I want that money. And I go, well, are you willing to have time? Because it may take a little time to get maybe a grant because the timing of that grant opens up 2 months from now. You're like, oh, I don't have time. Well, wait a minute. All right. So you have to be able to give. The other thing I want to be sensitive to is sometimes when we're looking at funding, we have to deal with red tape. I don't know if you've ever had that in the military. But, you know, there is like sort of protocols. And I know, having worked with multiple agencies, there's times where we had to wait for funding or there was protocol issues we had to get through. But one of my favorite stories was a veteran that I had done a full report on, determined they were feasible, submitted it to the agency. I won't tell you which agency because I don't want to call them out. The agency actually denied my decision, which was not good because I'm a qualified business expert and I'm representing the veteran. And I advocated on their behalf pro bono for the veteran for 7 years.
Wow.
Okay. I gave birth to 2 kids. I brought in a congressman and I had someone fired. And 7 years later, we got the notice that we won and the client received $70,000 as a grant and today is still thriving in their company. Why do I tell you this story? Because to your point, you are a navigator, but sometimes we have to be a soldier and sometimes we have to be a superhero because we're navigating through red tape and complicated situations to represent our clients.
And I don't think if you guys, you know, thought about this, but there is no way that I knew, even with all the military resources, there's so many entrepreneur, vet to CEO. There is no way without someone there that I was ever going to do this, because there is red tape. There's a million resources. And like I said, companies and veteran organizations are competing with each other to like get your attention. And it's impossible, like, because one organization won't work with the other
Yep.
a lot of times because they want funding for themselves. So that's
Exactly.
a lot of the reason why I think this could turn into something with the, helping veterans, really get more veterans interested in entrepreneurship, and then, coming on to Small Business Edge and having experts like Kedma, number one in her space, help you along the way. And I think this was really an eye opener for a lot of veterans on where they can go, and really helpful if they were looking to take this path into entrepreneurship and kind of start that journey.
And you brought up something that you said, there's a lot of veteran resources, correct?
Right.
So here's what I would tell everyone listening to this video. You have every right to question any organization that is going to give you resources. First thing I'm going to ask them is, I would ask the agency, what are the resources you're offering? Is it just training? Great. How long is the training? Great. Do you offer funding? In what capacity? Do you actually have a funding capacity? Do you refer people out? Who are your partners? You have every right, because to your point, when you're walking into this maze of resources, which you know better than me, unless you studied and interviewed, they all sound the same. Oh yeah, we support veterans. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
Right? How many times have you done that in your own navigation for clients, where, you will get on a call with an agency and they're like, yeah, we support veterans.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I know a lot of companies, all they do is they'll say, oh, here, get your veteran discount here. And they're not really building a relationship. They're not doing the marketing to
Exactly.
make better. For USAA, the banking, they were, from when I joined the military till now, 15, 16 years, I only got their card because they were on base.
Wow.
So like, if you don't develop a relationship, in that time, military and transitioning, I mean, that's where the loyalty comes from, developing that customer journey. And
yeah. So what is the one thing I can help answer, if I haven't answered already, that would be really important for your audience? Because I really want to make sure that we leave some kind of sounding port, that they feel value in hearing some of this information.
I guess, like, if you are hesitant right now to either go into the workforce, stay in a job, do you recommend they go full into entrepreneurship and starting a business and going right out? Or should they, follow the traditional advice of go get a job, stabilize, and then go? What's the right way to go so they feel good?
You just asked like one of my favorite questions. And so here's my answer I tell everybody. The answer is not or.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is and. Let me explain. I have studied how businesses fail for 20 years. Okay, I've worked with thousands, as I said. And when you study the truly successful companies and you look at how they started, most of the entrepreneurs actually leaped while they were in a job, waited so they had enough money, and then they leaped into an entrepreneurship. They did not just jump into the deep end, quit their job, have no money. That to me is not a safe bet. So it's and. So I would say, yes, put food on the table, take care of your family, get your needs met, make sure your rent or your mortgage is paid, and start your side hustle. Hustle, work at night, work on the weekends. I'm not saying that you want to do a conflict of interest or do your side business while you're working at your job, but I certainly believe in that philosophy. It's a philosophy I have done for years. My book, people say, how long did it take for me to be successful? 18 years, guys. 18 years. 15 years to develop the actual concept, 3 years to write the book. So I'm a long-term strategist, and I did it smart and careful. So I would say back to your audience, just do both. Do both.
Fantastic. I think we had a really good initial conversation. You are the obvious choice for somebody, your book, Target Funding. I think that's really important. If I knew there was a book like that, and now that you know Kedma, I would think that you'd realize there's a lot in that book that you can get, because obviously you can't attack Kedma for coaching because like she's a very busy woman, but that book is a huge resource, and so look for that. And where can they find your book?
So a couple of things. You can find it on Amazon. I do a lot of speaking engagement. I love LinkedIn. You can find you can email me at kedmao.com. You can certainly find me through your business. I want to make sure people reach out. And, I'm very approachable. So if you have a legitimate question, send it over to Brian or send it over to my way, and I'll do my best. But yeah, to your point right now, the reason I created the book was because I've been helping thousands, but if I want to go to the next level, I'm trying to create my own system to teach more. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm mindful on how I spend my energy right now. So it's been an honor being a part of your conversation, and I'll be available, if there's any other questions that come up.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone listening found this helpful, and have a great day. And remember, it is Military Appreciation Month. So, keep that in mind with your, the month of May. All right.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.